Namaste, my beautiful friends. Welcome to Nuit Astrology. I'm Jill Loftis, and today I have a guest star for the first time. I'm going to be introducing some new videos that bring in some of the cool and awesome stuff that some of my friends, colleagues, people I work with, people I know are involved in, that kind of weave into the importance of the things that we're understanding through the current astrology, where we have to be more proactive about caring for our health, our well-being, and we're also growing in our understanding. I am, hopefully you are too, of energy and how energy affects things. And I'm introducing today my dear friend, Heather Warner. Heather and I go way, way back. I don't even know how far back, but pretty far back, pretty far back. And we met at a time when I had just opened, or was in the process of opening my yoga studio. And we both had a lot of things in common, young children, one of them, but also our journeys have paralleled in a lot of different ways. And she is a healer. She started out as a massage therapist and now is working with the Arvigo. Is that what we're calling the technique is called now, Arvigo? And so any of you who are familiar with the channel or my work, one of my favorite books that I reference all the time is Sastun, Sastun, which is the story of Rosita Arvigo going to apprentice with the last living Mayan healer in Belize. And he transmits so much of his knowledge to her. And so much of what he transmits is just through his life and living, but also specific techniques that are really helpful for women. And so I'm introducing Heather, and welcome. Thank you for your time today.
Thanks, Jill. I'm glad to be here.
Tell me about you.
Well, I am a mama of two beautiful babies. I live in the mountains, the Blue Ridge Mountains here in Floyd County. I am a massage therapist. I've been a massage therapist since 2000. In 2014, I went through the trainings for the Arvigo therapy, also called abdominal therapy or Mayan abdominal therapy. So I'm very passionate about the work that I do with women and men and people of all ages.
Yeah, so tell me why this work is different than typical massage.
I would say what makes this work different is that it incorporates not just physical work, but there's a spiritual component. There are herbal components. There are things that you can do for yourself at home. And every person who receives the work also learns how to do the work on themselves. So you have this in your toolbox forever and ever for your own healing journey.
Wow. So what kind of, I imagine any kind of massage is good for everybody, right? This is my theory. But what are the things that kind of maybe your practice is a little more geared towards, like particular issues that people might have? And I should ask, is it for women and men?
It is for women and men. It is for people of all ages. It is gentle enough to do on babies or the elderly. And what the work is doing is helpful for digestive issues, reflux, GI distress, indigestion for men and women. It's also really helpful for fertility issues, helpful for menstrual discomforts, menopause, perimenopause. It's really great for postpartum healing. And it's a great way for women to really get in touch with that divine feminine energy of their womb space.
Now, I remember from reading Sastun that, and I can't remember the name of the shaman, the healer, but I remember him saying, that the womb was the centerpiece of a woman's health. And the position of the womb, the care of the womb, and where in Western medicine, which I'm not here to ding on Western medicine, it has its place, but Western medicine is more like, oh, let's take it out, you're not using it anymore. And I remember thinking, wow, how many people do that, and then what happens, and what if you instead tried to work with it? I mean, I'm saying that yeah, sometimes of course you do have to remove it, but it shouldn't just be just a rote kind of you're not using it anymore, let's take it out.
Right. So you're thinking of Don Eligio Panti, who
Yes.
is the shaman that Rosita Arvigo studied with. And he did say that the womb is the powerhouse of the woman's body. For people who have wombs, for womb-bearing peoples, the goal with the Arvigo massage is to bring the uterus into a central or neutral position, because any kind of trauma, physical trauma, emotional trauma, can cause the uterus to move out of alignment. And when the uterus is out of alignment, then all the other organs in the abdomen, all the organs of digestion, reproduction, elimination, get kind of out of balance. So take, for instance, if your uterus is positioned backwards, out of a neutral position, you can have issues with
That can
constipation,
happen.
diarrhea. If the uterus is low and tilted forward, you might have trouble with incontinence. There are a myriad of symptoms that you could have with a displaced uterus. So our goal is to bring it back into a neutral position, so all the other organs of digestion and reproduction can find their balance points and be nurtured and be healed through this gentle massage technique. And for sure, you asked about removing the uterus. Well, there are instances where the uterus does need to be removed, but energetically, that organ is still part of the body and can still be affected by this work. And just on a purely physical level, there can be scar tissue from any kind of surgery. So this work is really helpful for dissolving and soothing after surgeries.
Wow, that makes, I mean, the list of things that you described are things that pretty much every human being on earth encounters at some point. And gosh, it would make so much sense to start here instead of starting with, let's take some kind of medicine that would block the symptoms and not necessarily manage the issue in the long term. And that it's so funny when you were talking about getting the uterus in the right place. I had this vision of like taking the couch and dragging it into the wrong part of the room, right? And you like nothing else. There's no flow, right? It just totally makes sense that centerpiece needs to be in the right spot for everything else to work, right?
Absolutely. I like to think of, the uterus is attached inside the body with these uterine ligaments, and she's almost like a lovely lady on a trapeze. She kind of shifts and moves as you move around your life and experience different things. It's when she gets kind of stuck off to the side that problems arise. So
yeah, well, and you can, I always tell people from my time teaching yoga, you can hold tension in your intestines in the same way that you can probably hold tension in those ligaments or even in that muscle as well.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, and that brings me to the idea of, clearing stuck energy in the body, particularly for women who have had sex or sexual relationships or sexual experiences, or men, I guess, I would bring them in as well. I am finding in my work through yoga all those years, but also in astrology, the amount of sexual trauma that the average person, there's so much out there. It's deeply upsetting to realize that, but it's also really important that we start to solve that problem because it gets perpetuated. At least that's my theory on why it's happening so much. But how can this kind of work with those kinds of traumas or residual bad energy? I don't know how else to say it.
Right. I've noticed this in my practice too. It seems like 9 times out of 10, someone has had some sort of unresolved trauma, physical trauma, emotional trauma, sexual trauma. And I think a good first step is learning the abdominal therapy work to do on yourself. It really gets you in touch with your womb space for women, your power center, your divine feminine, kind of peeling back those layers. A lot of women don't even have the conscious awareness of trauma. And it's not until they start doing this work on themselves that they realize, wow, there's more going on. There's a lot of emotion stored in my womb space, held on from that trauma. So that is a great first step. There are some other additional therapies. There's vaginal steaming, also called
I
yoni
did that with you.
steaming. You did, which is, just essentially it's like a sauna with herbs and steam for your womb space. Men can do it as well. It's called a perineal steam. And the idea is that the healing vapors of the steam and the herbs can help to soothe and cleanse, not just physically, but energetically, spiritually, past trauma, bacteria, can cleanse you on all levels. So that's another wonderful tool for clearing that stuck energy.
Yeah, I've told many people about that experience because it really was incredibly powerful. If you first hear about it and you're like, what? You just sit over a pot of herbs, what? But no, it was really a powerful clearing. It's really an energetic thing. But as you're saying, also, it could be a physical thing because, I mean, the power of plants, man, it's just our allies are here and they're all around us, and we that wisdom has been lost, and this is a tradition that carries it forward, and we're grateful for people like you doing this work.
Yeah, thank you.
But I didn't even realize that men could do it too, but that makes so much sense, right?
Yeah, and you think about every culture has a similar version of this sort of healing with water, healing with herbs, like the saunas of Scandinavia, also healing with steam and plants. The Native American sweat lodges, also healing with the heat and the steam and herbs. So every culture has their version of this, and this is just a very simple one that anyone can do at home. You don't need any special equipment. You can use even an old lawn chair with the bottom cut out, and a pot of steaming water and fresh herbs or dried herbs. So a wonderful tool to add to your healing toolbox.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I found it powerful to have you set me up. Not that you stayed there with me, right? You leave the room, but I felt it powerful. I feel like rituals in some ways, they're just more powerful when someone is present with you and like they're holding space for you. So I mean, definitely people can do it on their own, but I would encourage, if there's a practitioner around, to at least have your first experience with somebody that you love and trust,
Absolutely. That's a good point.
Holding space for you. I also think it's really interesting how conflicted we all are about our bellies in general. That's just a space that people feel very vulnerable about and have a lot of complicated emotions about.
Well, there's a lot going on there, all those organs of digestion and elimination and reproduction. And you look at Eastern medicine, and you've just got a myriad of acupuncture points and, all the chakra systems that you're working through in the abdomen. There's a lot of energy there. And I think it's a commitment for people to start working on their belly, because they are uncovering deeper parts of themselves, and that can be a little intimidating. So it's good, like you said, to have a guide, a buddy that you can go into this with to kind of guide you.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's really important work. I think it's important. One of the important things about this work is that people understand sometimes that a physical symptom manifests from an energetic problem. I mean, and that's just something that not everyone is aware of or understands. Can you talk a little bit more about the approach of energy and how working with energy, like how do you know if it's actually a chicken egg? Like, was it a physical problem that's causing all of this, or is it an energetic problem that's causing whatever symptoms people might be having?
I would say that you cannot really separate the two, because they're so entwined. A physical ailment, I believe, has a spiritual component or an energetic component as well. And when you heal one, you start to heal the other. So even if there's not the awareness, like, I'm having painful menstruation. Okay, well, let's work on the painful menstruation. And as the person is ready, maybe they can uncover some of the energetic qualities to that discomfort. And so with the Arvigo work, both are being addressed at the same time.
Yeah, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. So what is the name of your business? How do people find you online?
Sure, the name of my business is Grove Healing Traditions.
So Grove,
Um,
like Grove, right?
like
Okay,
a
I'll put a
grove
link.
of trees. Yeah, we have a lovely, on our property, a grove of birch trees. And this place feels like a sanctuary or like a cathedral, just with the branches reaching up to the sky. And I really wanted to incorporate that in my business name. So it is Grove Healing Traditions. I'm on Facebook and I'm on Instagram as well, Grove Healing Traditions.
Great. And so you're located in Southwestern Virginia. Do you offer anything online or like Zoom consultations for people? Or is that something coming later in your business?
Yeah, that's something that I would consider adding to my business. I really like working physically with people. I like to put my hands and feel their bodies. So perhaps with follow-up sessions we could do online. Yeah.
And so if they are looking for an in-person practitioner who is connected to the Arvigo, techniques and these ancient traditions passed down from this the Mayan healer, who's Don Diego?
Don Eligio Ponti.
Yes. Why can't I remember that name? Anyways, if you want to contact another Arvigo person, how would people find them? Is there some kind of like, website that has the regional healers or anything like that?
Yes, the Abdominal Therapy Collective is based in the United States, and they have a listing of all the practitioners and how to contact them. There is also the Arvigo Institute, which is now based in New Zealand, and they do more international listings of practitioners. So either of those resources are really wonderful. There's a lot of educational material on their website, so I encourage anyone interested to check them out.
Excellent. All right. Well, I will get those links from you and put them in the description below. So if anyone is interested, wants to learn more about Heather, feel free to hop on her website, or if this work in general sounds intriguing, perhaps look at some of those, places that might be closer to you, or practitioners who might be closer to you, or you may be interested in learning and studying to become a practitioner yourself. It sounds like this is really important work that we need to spread. More
Yes,
people need to
absolutely.
know. Yeah, wow. Well, thank you, Heather. I appreciate you
Thank you,
coming here
Jill.
today.
Thanks for letting
Anybody who
me
has
share
any
my.
questions for Heather, send them to an email and, comment below, and we will follow up, maybe do another one of these soon if you have some questions for us. So thank you for joining us today. Bye.